And, we should remind everybody, because there's so much that's going on, but, the tariffs are not just bad because they're stupid economic policy, but we had trade deals in place, which were passed by Congress. Some of them, like the NAFTA replacement, Trump negotiated. And he just tore those up. They don't mean anything. So it's basically telling the world that the word of the United States is meaningless. And that's why our allies are just moving past us. We're losing research. We're driving R&D out of this country. We're beating up.
If you look at the amount, Dave, look at the amount of people that are investing in the U.S. and not in Europe. I mean, if you look at those numbers, we have $5 trillion valuation companies in this country. How many? And I think the highest that the EU has for a company is 300 million. I mean, this is a big discrepancy of how people still people 300 billion. I'm sorry, people 300 million. That's nothing these days. But I'm seriously, it's a rounding error. But seriously though, I mean, people still want to invest in the United States of America. I mean, I'm not going to say our country is horrible. I didn't say that at all.
And by the way, Europe is terrible at treating capital. As someone who's, someone who's pays attention to investing, that's the edge the U.S. had as far as the market valuations. And this is something to be potentially concerned about. So much of that market valuation is in what they call the Magnificent Seven, or the tech companies. NVIDIA is over 4 trillion. Apple and Microsoft are over 3. Google and Amazon are 2.5. Meta or Facebook is about 2. Tesla's over 2. Only Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, is barely over $1 trillion. That
is outside the tech.
In terms of the investment, in terms of our markets, absolutely. But I'm just talking about it in terms of the brain drain is more what I'm thinking of. And again, that's one of the key elements of populism is crapping on elitism, right? And there's nothing's more elite than medical research and science. And so that's why RFK Jr. is running roughshod over our healthcare system. And Trump is just fine with it, as are many other people in that camp. So I think, is this going to hurt us tomorrow or next week? No, but next year and a few years down the road, it really will. And people always say, well, how much of this is irreparable? And I think eventually you can rehire people. A lot of the DOGE stuff was damaging USAID, which of course is our best example of soft power.
Okay, but let's just talk. It is, but let's talk about this though. USAID, which I've done a lot of stuff in, sit on IRI board, NDI board. The amount of waste that was there, we needed to have some sort of reset. I'm not saying get rid of everything.
Back on that, that's not true. They had no evidence of fraud. First of all, it's $41 billion.
I'm not talking about fraud. I'm just talking about overspending on places. I mean, I look at how much money was
$7 million on. It was $7 million on this, $5 million on this, and yet they're
no. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about IRI got money from the State Department, or I'm sorry, from USAID. That was $10 billion for Indonesia. I mean, I would rather use $10 billion in the United States.
Their soft power. Their entire budget was $40 billion. It didn't come from.
It was between USAID and State Department. I just think it was bloated. I find 100%. I agree with you that it should have.
Then let's make it more efficient. But
that's my point.
It wasn't to make it more efficient. The point was to eliminate it. There was
not all of it. A lot of it's just been brought back into the Department of State. Anyway, I just feel like those agencies had a lot of bloat that needed to be pulled back.
Agency though, you can make that case and say, okay, then let's dismantle DOD, the most wasteful agency.
I agree with you on that. Well, I don't want to do DOD, but talking about bloat, you're 100% right. DOD.
I think my issue is more of Congress has appropriated money. President is unilaterally refusing to appropriate that money. We have a problem with the executive and legislative branch right now. The president is unilaterally sidelining the legislative branch, and
they
for
are
some reason
They're spineless. They're going along with it. They have abdicated a lot of their power, but still, you're right. It's been a team effort.
It has been, but it's disheartening that the Republican Party, the party that once believed in a less centralized version of government, that believed in less executive power, that believed that the legislative branch, the people's branch, should actually be more empowered than the executive, is so willingly surrendering their power, ceding their authority, turning a blind eye to flagrant breaks in the constitutional separation of powers, and it's the Republicans that are complicit in allowing this to happen. If Barack Obama had done any of these things, they'd impeach him for it.
Well, and that's why nothing burns me more than to hear someone say, "Oh, I'm a Reagan Republican, and that's why I support Trump." No, Ronald Reagan would be turning in his grave. Donald Trump is not a Republican. He's a right-wing, illiberal populist. That's the best way to describe him. And he is not a conservative. He is not a Republican. And as far as the cutting goes, as I said, first of all, we've been hearing about waste, fraud, and abuse since Reagan. And everyone talks about it. And of course, DOGE didn't really cut anything anyway. I mean, what was it like? We're talking $2 trillion. Ooh, we got 40 billion. But the real areas to cut, like the military budget, okay, what do? Oh, let's get rid of $5 million to not make ships more climate friendly. They didn't cut anything. In fact, they just went and had this whole new bomber program, E-47. Trump's the 47th president. Get it? He's like, we're going to build a lot of them. So it's just worse than ever.